Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever Tactical Baby Gear podcast. I am your host, Beav Brody. I'm also the founder of this fantastic company. I have with me today Mr. Alex Kristoff, who is my amazing business partner. So this ought to be interesting. Again, this is the first one. This is like pilot episode number 1. So I'll be curious to see how this goes. I'll be curious to see what you guys think of it. The idea and the thought with the podcast is to have some really interesting conversations with interesting people. Interesting conversations or useful conversations about parenting or life or just experiences of being a parent and then just other cool guy, fun stuff that, based around family stuff, I think, and probably some other business tips, I imagine, for parents that are trying to make some extra cash on the side, save some money for going to Disney World and things like that. So I hope you guys stick around to listen to more episodes. What's up, Alex?
How we doing?
I'm doing good. I didn't start my morning very well. I dropped my coffee on my lap getting out of the car. So that's how I started my day. So let's hope it just gets better from there.
I started my day with 3 kids tantruming. So that was fun.
Alex has 3 kids, all very close in age. He had twins first.
Buy one, get one free.
and then he had a third. Immediately after that, like Irish twins, but he's got 3.
Yeah, so we got 3 under 3.
And he had 3 under 2 when Anders was born. He had 3 kids under the age of 2. What was that like?
You don't sleep?
Are you sleeping yet?
Getting there. It's actually the Anders, he just turned 1. He's finally sleeping. The twins were really good sleepers. I think that's because they had each other in the crib. So we started off, with them in the same crib, and it would be cool. We'd wake up and like their heads would be touching, kind of like they were in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
But so I feel like they were really good sleepers because they felt each other. Obviously, Anders being singleton, he was just in the crib by himself.
Right.
And it took him a little longer, but the wife, thank God, she's very strict on the whole, sleep
Schedules.
Training thing. So it was one of those, we're very much the cry it out kind of parents.
Yeah.
And it's hard to listen to, but it's paid off. So now they're both, all 3 of them are really good sleepers.
That would be the biggest thing I commend you guys on is your extremely strict scheduling. Like there's no wavering from the schedule. Which is great.
We always kid around,
but it's
right?
just like it's a lifestyle thing. Like you guys, that's the way you operate. We're pretty strict with certain schedules, but we're also super flexible with other things. So it's just a different, I don't want to say style of parenting, but it just with our lifestyle, it's just a different thing.
Yeah, we always kid around. You're like, are you going to come do this? I'm like, I'm not a flexible parent. It's like I'm not going to the parade during the kids' nap time. I just
right. So how much of that do you think contributed to Max and Nico being good sleepers in the beginning? Do you think it's because they were close with each other and had someone else there? Or do you think it was the strict schedule? Or what do you attribute some of that to? Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. Obviously, the twins were the first kids, so I didn't know any better, didn't know any different. So I imagine they just felt their presence. So that probably was a calming effect, just like, whenever a parent comes in or a mom comes in, like the babies just kind of sense it and they almost typically get calmed down. But again, I'm sure there's a lot have to do with, you just got to get through that first kind of 3 days, week, depending on the child.
Right.
And let them cry it out. They might cry for 30 minutes that first time.
The cry it out thing
and
is
then it's
tough.
5 and
the cry it out thing, especially the first few times, is really tough because you're like, I know that if I just go in there and pick them up or do this or bring them into my own bed or all these things that go run through your head, like it'll shut them up and then I can sleep. Because a lot of times this is happening at middle of the night, 3 a.m. and you're like, I'm just going to let them cry it out. And then it just keeps going and going. And it's like curling, bloody murder, screaming, crying. And you're like, I could just go pick them up and stop all of this. Or I could let them cry it out and get no sleep for, and do this for the next 3, 4, 5 nights. And then they figure it out. And then it's like, okay, 4 or 5 nights of no sleep now means I sleep for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Instead of ending up with a kid in your bed for 2 years, there's
we we were very fortunate that we had space for, the kid to be in their own room.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I commend the parents that don't have that luxury. We did. So it was very much, day one from the hospital, they're in their room, kind of doing that separation between parents' room and our room. We still didn't sleep because you bring a new,
You're
new
feeding
parent, and you're just like, this is like, are they gonna stop breathing? And just all
Right.
those weird, like we call it Final Destination. It was always like every thought was like, you have this water bottle in front of your kid, and then the thought was like, all of a sudden my 1 month old who has no dexterity of the fingers is going to open this bottle, going to choke on this, and then I'm going to be run into the hospital. Just those,
You're going to the end of the world.
Going to the end of the world on those thoughts that are just unrealistic. But we separated, that space. Like this is the baby's room. This is our space. We were fortunate to be able to do that. And then with the wife nursed, so obviously up until that time where you can get them to sleep through the night from a lack of feeding. It was, let's start to cry it out. And
move on to that stage.
And
it's funny because new parents ask when it gets easier. It never really gets easier. It just changes. And I think that's a big thing for people to understand. Like unfortunately, there's never a point where it gets easier. It just changes. And
trying to understand what is changing, like all of a sudden it's teeth. So is he crying in the middle of the night because he's getting his first tooth? Are they sick? And then trying to balance that with, again, like you want to, very supportive, very loving, but we were very strict on trying to make sure that, they knew that obviously they were loved and we pick them up and we hold them.
Of course.
But, we're not just going to run in there at a moment's notice. So it's that juggling act too as a new parent that, all right, are they actually hurt or do they need, is there something else going on? Are they hungry or is it, they're crying for attention and then if I give it to them, then I'm starting to potentially
behavior.
Pattern,
they learn that behavior quick.
So that's why there's no manual. No true manual.
There isn't. And here's something for me to elaborate on as we talk about the ever-changing landscape of parenting. There's no manual for it. Final destination, all the things that you just mentioned, I'm still dealing with on a completely different level. So let me tell you guys a story. This happened yesterday. We got a note from the teacher saying, hey, we want to let you know of this incident that happened at school. Another student used his grilled cheese sandwich as a gun and threatened to kill your daughter. He said, I'm going to kill you. And Cameron's very sensitive to a lot of things. And she got really upset. She was crying. She went and told a teacher, an adult. I don't know exactly who she told first, but she went and told an adult, hey, this kid said this to me. She was crying. She was very upset about it. So here I am like, okay, let me open the instruction manual, page 57. How do I, that doesn't exist. You're like, okay, how do I deal with this situation? Like you read about these things and it's really interesting because most people hear a story like that and they're like, the kid, like it's a sandwich. Where's the threat and harm in that? Like, and there really isn't, you know what I mean? Like, but you don't know the context of it. Then when you're the parent of the student or of the kid who has this threat, I'm going to kill you, you have questions. Like, what was the content? Was it a serious, I'm going to kill you? Or was it like, pew, pew, I'm going to kill you, hey, and you're like, okay, let's start with that. Like, how was this said? Who is this kid? What's his family like? What are the parents like? Or is this a potential problem? Is he typically a problem child, or was it playful? Or like, boys will be, I probably did the same thing 1,000 times. We all probably did it.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when it's your child that has the threat, it changes the whole thing. So on my list of things to do today, I'm going to email a teacher. I'm going to schedule a meeting with them and the administration to just kind of, I got questions.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with this? Like, I'm not mad at the kid. It's probably completely innocent. I'm 95% sure it was just boys being boys kind of thing. But what if it's not? There's that like little bit of doubt of, okay, if something doesn't happen now or this isn't dealt with or whatever, if it is a potential real problem, like they go on, like they're in second grade, they're 7 and 8 years old. They go into 5th grade, 6th grade. All of a sudden he got away with this. No one took it serious. They brushed it off. And then he's the kid in the school shooting up a 6th grade classroom or so, you know what I mean? Like you just never know. So these are the things as a parent start running through your head and you're like, all right, I've got to put this fire out quickly or at least get some answers and clarity because I'm going to have a hard time sleeping with all these questions in my head of like, what about this? What about that? What are the parents like? Do they have guns out in the house? Is this kid going to show up to 2nd grade with a gun in his backpack? You know, like those are real questions in the days and age that we're living in now. So it's crazy. It's a crazy, ever-changing landscape that there's no instruction manual for. It's not like, oh, my check engine light came on my car, open to page 72 and see what that means. And what do I do about that? What is this?
There's a nail in my tire. We know what to do.
Yeah.
Not here.
It's crazy. Not to mention just like all the other things that go along with that and the things that I'm dealing with, you know, on top of that of like homework, you know, and like I was not the best student academically. Terrible. Awful. I have a creative brain. I'm a visual learner. I have to do things with my hands. I have to feel productive doing things. Like I'm not an academic numbers crunching kind of person. So like even my daughter comes home with like math homework now and I'm like 8 + 7. I'm like, oh, 15, right? That's 15. You know what I mean? Like,
like so, how many toes, fingers?
Like I actually put this on Instagram stories not too long ago. If you guys are, you know, some of you guys saw that and commented on it. And I had a lot of school teachers comment back and they were kind of laughing at it because it's true. Cause I was like, what happens when they get to like high school and they're doing like algebra and calculus and all these things? I'm like, I'm not going to be able to help with homework. Like I'm going to have, I'm not the only one like that. No. Alex, you're a super nerd, genius, brilliant person. And
that's an overstatement, but yeah.
I joked in another podcast recently that Alex, he's a huge part of this business, but I wouldn't be here without him. But I call him my super nerd all the time because he's the number crunching. Like he operates the business. If you guys don't know what Alex's position in the business is, you know, he's the operator. I mean, he runs the business. He is the silent assassin behind the scenes, making sure that you guys are getting orders quickly from which one of our warehouses it needs to come from. Making sure that we have inventory in stock, like all that kind of stuff. He's my super nerd. I create neat products and make them look cool on the internet. Like,
and you do a good job at it.
And making sure that I make sure you guys have a quality product. Alex makes sure that you guys get it. Like that's really how it kind of plays out. So,
well, it's just like everything though. I mean, you need to find that balance, find someone that takes, you know, highlights your strengths and then supports your, let's call it weaknesses, right?
Yeah. And a lot of self-awareness happening right
exactly,
there for sure.
Which is why this just in general, obviously, for the people that are actually watching it and not listening to it, like you never see me on camera, it's just not my style. I'm okay with that. I know who I am in that regards.
Right.
Obviously, I like to talk and vent in the office, but that's just my place and that works. But, you know, that's just like parenting, though, you know, fortunately in my life, obviously I have a very supportive wife who's, you know, just brilliant and can, you know, handles parenting like it's, you know,
like a champ,
like just super easy. She makes it look easy, even though obviously her job is, you know, infinitively like just 10 times harder than anything I could ever do.
I'm going to jump in here and say right away that being a stay-at-home mom is the number one underrated thing on the planet. Stay-at-home parent. I shouldn't say mom because dads do it too, and there's a lot of you, and I've talked to you on Instagram and things like that. Stay-at-home parenting is no joke.
I mean, just the level of patience you have to handle it on a daily basis. And so obviously we're just very fortunate. Obviously, a lot of the single moms and dads out there, obviously, that still have to work. It's a whole nother kind of conversation, everything else. Right. But I guess I relate that back to just the fact that, like, you know, with no manual, you know, it's just you're trying to just flow. It's like, you know, trying to find, you know, ways and you know, whether it's grandparents or whoever that can step in to help with kind of supporting you know, what you're doing, your strengths and your weaknesses. And, you know, that's just in business and in life. And,
you know, what's interesting too about that, as you talk about how she's doing a lot of stuff at home, is communication between the parents, whether you're a single parent or not, or you're co-parenting from different houses, communication between the parents on how to deal with particular things. Like if there's a punishment that needs to be happening, or where do we draw the line in the sand and how do we deal with that? on the same page, so that you're not saying this and I'm saying that, and then the kid's confused. But mommy said I could do this, and why are you saying no? And
which kind of goes back to obviously the story that you're trying to get more information so you can communicate that with your kids. So obviously I commend the fact that Cameron went to talk to an adult. I mean, that's obviously the hardest thing that there was
a ton of praise.
Most kids
for that
might
this morning.
Be too shy or upset, obviously, to talk about that. So obviously, trying to create and foster that environment where the kids feel like there's boundaries, there's rules. Obviously, we're strict parents, like you kind of said, like unflexible. But like here's your kid, have fun, do these things. But here are the rules. There's reasons you need. I think
there's boundaries. Yeah,
I think it's this seems like so many people forget at times that you're the parent and you can say no. And
you don't have to be your kid's best friend.
You're not like you need to be the parent. So it's like, well, Johnny doesn't need to run with a sharp knife because he's 5. Like,
right.
I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you get the point. Like,
it's not an exaggeration.
You got to step in and be the parent, and it's not always fun. It's very hard because you feel like I mean, even just talking about the cry it out. Like, I could easily go in and pick up my child, and they will calm down, but eventually they need to sleep in their own bed.
It's a learning lesson,
and it's hard, and there's many other factors. I'm not gonna completely generalize. Like you had a kid that was in the NICU that has come home. There's
tons of exceptions,
scenarios that are like, I just can't separate because my kid had this traumatic experience. Like, I mean, obviously we were very fortunate.
It's a very situational basis. And again, there's no manual. There's no one way. There's no one thing fits it all, which is why you guys don't hear us talk about parenting in any other content or anything else. We're not telling you guys how to parent, which is, I think, why there's going to be so much value in the podcast, because people can talk about the way and experiences that they've had to do some parenting, and people will take nuggets from it. And it's like no one's forcing any of it on anyone else. And we're going to be the last ones to judge. A lot of people are judgmental about the way other people parent. And that's not us. Like, everyone has to do their own thing and take care of their kids their own way and what needs to be done.
That was one of the most interesting things about becoming a parent, was like you're in line right at a grocery store, and you're like, you see someone frazzled or a little short tempo and everything else, and you go, you know what, maybe that person's got 2 kids at home, hasn't slept, he got some email from work, and all he wants to do is come home to make a sandwich for his kids to put them to bed to go, because he's working 2 jobs, or she's working 3,
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of taking a step back. Maybe that person is just an asshole.
Yeah.
Maybe
they had a rough
there's
day.
more to it, you know what I mean? And
they've got a newborn at home and they hadn't slept in 3 days.
Exactly. So then I've extrapolated from that sort of like, maybe that person just found out their parents their father passed away. Like, so they cut me off because, either they're a jerk or maybe there's something else. But like the parenting side of it has come with, I'm going to try to give people at least the benefit of the doubt, because I know now, when I wasn't sleeping and everything else, trying to, run businesses and do everything, it was, well, I'm probably short-tempered. So, all right, maybe someone else is, so let me try to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right, for sure. Cool. Anything else? Any other topics? It might be a good place to end it for episode 1.
The good news is we got the mics in the office, so.
Yeah, well, let's fire up episode 2 when we... Guys, I hope you enjoyed this first episode pilot podcast from Tactical Baby Gear. Let me know in the comments. First of all, I want to figure out a good system to put in place to get other people in here. I've got a list already going of people I think would be interesting to get on here. We have a lot of people drop in the office from time to time, so they will absolutely make it on the podcast, assuming that they're up for it. But then there's other interesting people, and I want to talk to all kinds of people. And if we need to I'm going to figure out a good way to do this with good, clear audio remotely. Whether that's Skype or whatever. We have the ability to do phone calls into this, but it doesn't sound very good. So we're going to scratch the whole phone call thing. It sounds like a really bad phone call. So if we can do like a Skype or something like that, we will. And I know there's tons and tons of people that would be really interesting, and that would open up the doors to a lot of other people if we can figure out the remote situation. Otherwise, as people come in, stop by, or we can invite them in or fly them down or whatever. we will do that. But if you have suggestions of people that you want to hear, if you're somebody that wants to be on the podcast, let me know in the comments of this video, who you think might, I say video or the podcast, wherever this ends up, wherever you're listening to this, put a comment in there of like somebody that you might think is interesting to have on the podcast or talk to or has an interesting story. And we will reach out to them potentially and consider them for sure. But make sure that you guys are following us on Instagram, Facebook, and all the places. Subscribe on YouTube here if you're watching. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.